What does Beyoncé have to do with robots and creativity and fundraising? What does mortality have to do with fundraising? How are management and community related? How can our fundraising be transformed by transforming our personal relationship to money? Friends, you are in for an adventuresome ride on this one. In the first interview I'm doing for this podcast, I'm joined by my longtime dear friend, Mallory Mitchell. And as you can imagine, might happen with longtime dear friends, we talk about everything. And somehow, the through lines are there. It all makes sense. There are so many lessons to glean about life, about work, about fundraising, about community, and more. So buckle up. I do want to mention that probably mostly because I'm still a baby podcaster, there were a few technical difficulties with this episode. You'll hear it in the sound mostly. Just some garbles, a few almost missed words. But I think you'll still be able to follow along just fine. And I thank you for your patience and grace with me. Thank you for being here. I'm so grateful to have you in this community. Welcome to the For the Love of Humanity podcast, a place for those who'd like to see philanthropy be less of the industry it has become and return to its roots, love of humanity. This place is beautiful and hopeful, and it's nothing without you. Community is the way. Community has always been the way, and philanthropy has lost its way as it's developed over the years. We're recentering community at For the Love of Humanity, and community is what we seek in everything we do. Friends, to love and care for our fellow human beings is one of the most human things we can do. Let's get back to the roots of what it means to be human. Let's return to true philanthropy together. For today's show, we are welcoming Mallory Mitchell. Here's a little bit about Mallory. Rapidly emerging as a sought-after keynote speaker, Mallory Mitchell is redefining fundraising leadership with her radically warm, community-centric approach. As a co-founder of Aligned Strategy Group, she sparks transformational change nationwide by challenging the rules that hold fundraisers back. With experience spanning major gifts to development director roles, Mallory creates light bulb moments that shift team cultures toward abundance and equity. Her commitment to advancing racial equity earned her the 2021 National Philanthropy Day Award from AFP Minnesota. Featured in the Chronicle of Philanthropy and a former University of Minnesota adjunct professor, Mallory combines academic rigor with practical wisdom to help nonprofit leaders claim their confidence in fundraising. Welcome, Mallory Mitchell.
Thank you. I am so looking forward to our conversation. Really happy to be here.
Yes, thank you. And thank you for being the official inaugural guest. I think I chose you as the first for so many reasons, but obviously for all the reasons that I just read. I just feel that you have so much to offer people, and I feel that so many people would benefit from hearing your voice. People are already benefiting from hearing your voice in all of these speaking gigs that you've been doing. And we've been friends a long time. So there's that.
Yep.
There's that. There's just this level of trust and familiarity that is so nifty for me to have right now for my very first recorded interview for the podcast.
Yeah.
But I just feel like we often have very deep and interesting conversations with each other. So I know that our conversations are good. And I feel like sometimes I wish other people could overhear them. And so this is such a fun opportunity to actually make that happen. So
Yeah, agreed.
I want to start with a couple of questions that are related to each other. So the two questions are, if you could first tell us a story of a time that you felt dehumanized, and depending on what kind of story people tell, that could be a pretty hard thing to dwell in. Part of why I want to dwell in it with you and with our listeners is because my hope is that the more that we all start to understand what dehumanization looks like and sounds like and feels like, we might start perpetuating it and experiencing it less.
Yeah.
And then the follow-up question is related, and that is a time when you felt most human or you felt especially humanized, like you just had a very human moment that you felt all the joy in being human and in connecting with other humans. So we'll start with the first question.
Okay.
So, Mallory, would you be willing to share a story with the people that are listening of a time that you felt dehumanized?
Yeah, I really love this question because I think it's something we don't think about enough, but we experience quite a lot. The first thing that came up for me was in a past role, I was a fundraising coach and I was on a small team of coaches. And I think the problem we were trying to solve was, how do we know how much capacity we have between us to serve X number of coaching clients who are all nonprofits? The proposed solution was this spreadsheet, this capacity spreadsheet that would take all of our available hours for coaching with the contracted hours and show if you're at like 104% capacity, like you've got too much, or you're at like 80% or whatever. And that spreadsheet took over. Like it became like, I was talking to my coach about it, trying to process what I was experiencing, and she was like, "It sounds like the spreadsheet is like a character in your life." And it was like, "Yes, this spreadsheet is." So, the spreadsheet became this, like, this I don't even know the right words for it, but it became like the encapsulation of us. And it was, "The spreadsheet says you have capacity, so why are you telling me that you don't?" Like, the spreadsheet was to be believed before we were, and a spreadsheet can't capture all of your work. That's If you tried to put every bit of your workday in a spreadsheet, the spreadsheet's not going to be accurate. That's not how humans work. But I think it says a lot about how the work was perceived, that this was something we could just churn out and produce. And I think it shows just like a fundamental misunderstanding of what coaching is, but also the dehumanization that we're just a factory. We're not coaches. Like the whole thing just felt like we were reduced to numbers in a spreadsheet and we couldn't out argue the spreadsheet. Yeah, I think it says something about the kind of desire for efficiency, and we have a problem, we need to solve it. A spreadsheet will do it. But that actually becoming like a weapon and that becoming something that took our humanity away, and we never really got it back. That was the beginning of the end of my time there, was that spreadsheet character in our lives.
Yeah, because it does, gosh, it's striking in hearing the story after the fact, how much the spreadsheet was, it was a character and it was another being almost, like it was given that sort of
Yeah,
status. Um,
yeah.
it was believed, it had more credibility than you, it was believed more than you.
Yes,
You're
yes,
you're the
yes,
human that has the feelings and has the thoughts and has the experiences. And not only were they not listening to you, but they were listening to a spreadsheet more than you.
yes. And I love what you said about the spreadsheet having immediate credibility and more credibility than us, because that's exactly it. And like, I can always find time to get on my soapbox about white supremacy culture, but I think this is an extension of that, right? That the numbers are to be believed before the words, before the experience. And we're looking to the quantitative to tell the whole story when it just can't. It's not, it wasn't designed to, it can't, it shouldn't. And so for it to be given this immediate credibility over us, I think says a lot about white supremacy culture, says a lot about dehumanization. And those two things go together. And we don't talk about that enough either.
No, and you I don't know, it makes me think too about the fact that it was coaching. Like, coaching is such human work. It's, like,
Mhm.
such human to human work, and
Mhm.
ergo, there's going to be so many unpredictable parts of it. For instance, right, say you just have a really emotionally draining conversation.
Yes.
To have a lot less energy for what comes next than if you didn't just have that particular conversation, right? It's like
Yes.
you have to take into account these very human experiences we have being humans, working in the human place with other humans, that our energy is not it isn't rote, it isn't numerical, it
Yes.
isn't quantifiable, like, it can expand and contract based on
Mhm.
what we're experiencing or what we had to eat or how much sleep we got or, like,
Yeah,
whatever. So
and yeah, we're looking to the spreadsheet to tell us all of this, and it doesn't account for the energy you had that day, the energy it took for that client to help them hold their problems and their challenges. Is it about the human experience and helping this person get from point A to point B, or is it about making the spreadsheet happy and accurate? And one of those things is clearly more important than the other to me, but I don't know that we are all on the same page about that.
so I'm gonna put a pin in part of this conversation. And after we finish this initial exercise, I want us to come back to the part about human versus machine. I would like to talk about that a little bit more.
Yeah.
But just to close out this answer, the other thought I've been having is I do have some compassion for humans who are trying to be a good manager and they don't really know what that means. There's probably a lot of anxiety about that.
Mhm.
Probably a lot of even imposter syndrome or feeling, "Oh, I just" especially if people are just getting into a role for the first time, or if
Yeah.
they've been in it for a while, just, "I don't know how to manage people," like, it's stressful to do that and trying to figure out ways to do that better. And
Mhm.
hearing somewhere, because I feel like a lot of people manage this way, that a spreadsheet is a really good way to do it,
Yeah.
and just thinking, "Oh, I'm gonna do that then," because I heard from
Mhm.
wherever I heard it from that this is a good idea.
Yeah.
And so I think that this kind of dehumanization tends
Mhm.
to happen a lot when we are dehumanizing ourselves. So I almost feel like a manager in a position like that is dehumanizing themselves if they're not allowing themselves to feel afraid or feel anxious and get through it in a way that's not just like looking outside of themselves for some sort of answer and then just taking that answer, but actually
Yeah.
like digging deep and figuring out like, what do I need in this situation? What does my
Mhm.
team need in this situation? What
Mhm.
is actually going to help us all get from point A to point B? Like, how like, really feeling into that and sitting with it and, like, being human with that. And also, maybe even acknowledging their anxiety with the team. That's a major faux pas in a lot of work.
Yeah.
Like, if you're in
Mhm.
charge, you're not supposed to be showing any kind of weakness, but
Yeah.
I wonder about that. What if you just did that and say, in a meeting with your team, "I feel like I need to help you all manage your workload, and I'm anxious about it. Like, I don't really know the solution, and I'm anxious
Mhm.
about it. Like, how about
Yeah.
we figure it out together?" Wow.
Yes.
Wouldn't that be more humanizing for everybody involved?
Groundbreaking. Absolutely groundbreaking. Yes, yes. I had a manager and the first thing she said was, "I've never supervised anyone before. I'm going to mess this up.
Oh, wow.
That's just what it is." Like, we're gonna figure this out together. And it brought me so much peace too. That's like, "Oh, if she doesn't have it all figured out, there's not the expectation that I have it all figured out." And, but she's absolutely right. there will be missteps. That is part of being in relationship with one another. That's part of learning something new and like just starting with the expectation that it's going to happen. It's more about how we work through it together. It was really impactful for me in the moment. And I hope that's something that people can come back to. It's like, it's not a sign of weakness to name the inevitable and just open the door to that conversation. I think it actually lets everybody let their walls down a little bit more and leads to better functioning as a team because everyone is able to actually be their full selves and not the version of themselves they think they're supposed to present at work.
Oh my gosh. Amen. I think in some ways it simplifies things. If I don't need to think about, like you're saying, whatever facade I'm putting on, I don't have to think about coming up with something all on my own that's going to work. If you're not having to do all that work to prepare yourself to be present with your team and with the people that you're working with, you can just be yourself and be present. And like you said, this is another one of my big things. I have always said the same thing, just that so many of us are afraid of conflict. And it's like, how can we be afraid of conflict? Honestly, if any humans are in the same space together, there will be conflict. Everything, every part of what it is to be human, like your personality, your way of being, is going to be different than everybody else around you. So there will be conflict. And you don't have to worry about that. And also, you don't have to worry about the facade or whatever you're doing if you just know, I'm just going to show up. I'm just gonna be real. I'm just gonna tell folks what's going on with me, and we will work it out together, even if it's conflict. Even if
Yep.
I step on somebody's toe and they're maybe a little pissed at me in the moment, or
Yep.
something's wrong,
Hmm.
we will be accountable to each other. We will talk
Yes.
it through. We'll work it out. If you come to your workplace, if you come to your life, let's say, if you come to your whole life with that kind of perspective, I think that does take a lot of the anxiety out because it's just
Mm.
like, no matter what happens, we'll work through it. I got my humans around me. I got my community around me. We
Yep.
will work through it together.
Yeah, yeah. And what I hear in there too is like resiliency, right? That I know that I'm gonna be okay in the end. I know you're gonna be okay. I know we're gonna be okay. We might have to get through a difficult phase, but we will still be okay because we're both committed to being in relationship with each other, whatever that looks like, right? Whether it's
Yeah.
we're continue to work together, we're gonna continue to be friends, like whatever that looks like. There's that ability to bounce back and like confidence in your ability to bounce back because like we both want to. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. I feel like what we're talking about right now is going to be a good lead into some of what we're going to talk about later, which is community centric fundraising. But I feel like what I just heard come out of your mouth was
Mhm.
what we're both talking about is really the essence of being in community. And I feel like that piece that you just said is huge, which is the
Yep.
commitment to the relationship. These are not relationships that you are ever going to just throw away or
Yeah.
write somebody off. You have to be working through stuff with people because, again, there will be conflict. So it's
Yep.
like you have to be committed to working through it. And
Mhm.
also, there's another key piece of community that I've experienced, which is accountability.
Yeah.
It's important that you are accountable to each other
Yep.
and that you hold each other accountable.
Mhm.
And so again, when something comes up, just bring it up, talk it through.
Mhm.
But there's such a nice kind of soft container. It feels like a nice velvet container or something if you know that you're in community with each other, because no matter what happens, you'll know that you're going to be okay. You're going to
Mm.
have each other's back. You're committed to each other. There's something that is so beautiful about community in that way.
I agree. I think about like my mom and I have a great relationship and she holds me accountable and I'm never like, "Oh my god, this is the end. I'm so sorry that I caused the destruction of our relationship." Like that's not I know that it's coming from a place of love and I even bring that to my relationship. So I wouldn't bring it up unless I wanted us to find a way through it. If I didn't care, I wouldn't mention it. I would just fade off into the I'd ghost.
That is a good point, and I'm now applying that to I think there's been a lot of talk over the last few years, especially about how to be an ally, especially how if you're white, how to be an
Mhm,
ally to folks of color. I think that there's been so much talk about Robin DiAngelo's white fragility. Everybody's been talking about white fragility since she brought that book out. And
mhm,
it's always something I shook my head at because I'm like, I don't understand why if somebody cares about me enough and
mhm.
respects me enough and trusts me enough to bring up something to me that I did or I said that was harmful to them, why would I run away from that or why would I be fragile about that? Because I would be honored.
Yes, I totally agree. Yeah. Mm,
It's what you said. It's like it actually is an honoring
yes.
that somebody would choose to bring something like that up with you. It could be so easy not to.
Yes, yeah, and that's what I try to tell people when I'm talking about donor codes of conduct and having difficult conversations with donors, like, it's going to be uncomfortable, but you're bringing it up because you want to find a resolution and, like, ground in that and even tell the person that. Say it explicitly that, "I am bringing this up because I want us to work through it together." And I think that's, like, a misconception about CCF and that whole CCF being community-centric fundraising and that whole sort of ethos is that, like, this is all part of growth. This is all part of being in community with each other, and it all is coming from a place of love and a place of collective care, and it's not about hurting your feelings or all of that might be your reaction, right? But if you give yourself time to not react, but to respond, I think you can start to see that that was uncomfortable for everybody. Like, they would only bring that up if it was, like, actually really key to us moving forward, and we're not throwing away donors, we're not getting rid of donors, we're not canceling anybody. We're just bringing up the impact of their actions and what do we need to do together to get through this. I think that is not super common way of looking at it, but I hope that, like you said, defining community in that way, I think is the way forward for us.
Yeah, this is where I'm glad that other people are hopefully gonna be overhearing this conversation because I agree. I hope that this way of relating to other people in community starts to become much more common because
Yeah.
honestly, like all of it's going to be so much better for us all.
What? Exactly. Yes.
Okay, so this is us. This is what we do. We just riff.
This is
We yeah, we that was the first question and we had 50 gazillion things we just talked about after the
that's
first question. But it's all gonna relate back. I have a feeling we get to the end of this discussion and it's all gonna make sense. There's gonna be like lines through it all. It's all gonna make sense.
yeah.
Let's just get to the official second question, which is tell us a story of a time when you felt especially human or especially humanized.
Mm. I met a cousin when I moved here to Minnesota. We didn't know each other super well before I moved here. His name was Clarence. He was everything. He was like cousin, uncle, dad, friend. Like he was all the roles for me. And this was a couple of years ago. He was diagnosed with cancer in, I think it was like May. And then he passed in July. It was really fast, really
Wow.
traumatic. But there was this moment where I was visiting him in the hospital, and it was our last I didn't know it at the time, but it was our last lucid one-on-one conversation, and there was this moment when he closed his eyes, and it was like I was watching him go through the Rolodex of his life in his head, like a highlight reel of memories, and
Wow.
just seeing all of these expressions on his face, and just watching somebody do that, there was something about it that was so humanizing that that's what it's about, right? It's like at the end, looking back and being happy with everything that you're playing back for yourself. And there's something about that just changed me. I was like, when it's my turn, I want to look back and be like, oh, I'm so glad I had that experience. I'm so glad I did it while I could. I'm so glad I grew in that way, or I spent time with this person, or made this a priority. And there was just something about it that's what being human is all about, is the culmination of all of those experiences, and that's the gift of being human, and yeah, there's just something about it that really changed the course for me. I feel really grateful to have witnessed that.
Mhm. Yeah, and isn't it interesting that in that moment, he was being probably one of his most human selves that he had been throughout his lifetime, because I'm guessing there was no filter whatsoever. Like, he was just
Yeah.
being him, sharing his experience, and because he
Mhm.
got to have that experience, you got to have that experience too, and I think that's something that sort of happens, right, is that we influence each other. Whatever one of us is experiencing can influence the other, but, like, how
Mhm.
cool that I'm having that experience totally affected you, and now
Mhm.
you're sharing it in this setting where countless other people can be positively affected by it. I mean,
Yeah.
like, how cool is that? And in some ways, it feels like part of Clarence's legacy. We've
Mhm.
talked about Clarence before, but he was a gardener who loved roses, and
Yeah.
he cared for the roses at the Minnesota Landscape Arboretum. Um,
Yeah.
so one of the things that Mal and I and a friend did a while back after Clarence passed was going to appreciate his beautiful roses, like the roses that he had cultivated and made so beautiful over his time on earth. This is a rose that he's leaving behind too. And
Yeah. Yeah.
isn't it interesting that, like, so often these kinds of things, these kinds of parts of being human, they become so much in just like sharp relief. They become so much clearer when
Yeah.
you're really face to face with mortality.
Yes. 100%. Yeah. He knew he was dying. It was like him opening up and being vulnerable and just being so fully human made space for me to do the same. And I think even, like you said, having this conversation, I hope makes space for other people to do that and have that moment too. And I do really love having the arboretum to go to. There's just feel him everywhere there. And it's, I get some clearance time by going to the arboretum and seeing his legacy and seeing all of his coworkers who showed up for him there at the end. If I had to do like a map of places I feel especially human, I think the arboretum would be one of those.
Such a good place. But yeah, I think I'm inspired all over again by Clarence's story in ways that I've already been inspired myself because of my own experiences with my own mortality.
Yeah.
I think that often it's thought of as, I'll just say faux pas again, like it's
Yeah.
faux pas in our culture
Mhm.
to talk or think about death. Um,
Yeah.
this is even something that is a little extra relevant for fundraisers because so often, A, we're having relationships with people for a long time sometimes, and certainly often towards the ends of their lives. And B, some of us, our jobs are explicitly about talking to people about their legacy, talking
Yeah.
what will happen after they die or what they want to leave behind. And so I
Mhm.
just think it's important for all of us to, so this sounds morbid, but again, I recognize that so much of what I'm doing with For the Love of Humanity is countercultural. And like when I
Yeah.
feel the discomfort in myself to say something or to write something, I'm like, oh, the reason you're feeling that discomfort is because it is countercultural. And that feeling inside of you was created by the ways you were conditioned by the dominant culture. And so
Yes.
that's you're uncomfortable, but you have to be uncomfortable to say the thing. And that's how you start to feel less uncomfortable. Other people will too. And so what I was about to say was I feel like we need to like think about death more
Yeah.
and and
Yes, I totally agree.
and just
Yes.
think about honestly how quickly our lives could end.
Yes.
Any of us, it's so fragile. It is so
Mhm.
these lives we're
Mhm.
living are so fragile. I heard a story not too long ago about a woman who literally choked on her gum and died. I know, right? If you think about it,
Yes.
lives are
Yeah.
so fragile. And so, like Clarence's kind of
Mhm.
highlight reel that came to him, like,
Mhm.
what will really matter to us when we get
Yeah.
to that point?
I was just thinking about all the stuff you do in your like fundraising career. That perfect annual report that you spent months making is not going to be on that highlight reel. If it is, we should have another conversation. But it's the moments of the humanity that are gonna be there. It's not gonna be when you stayed late to clean up after this event because no one else was going to. It's not gonna be any of those things, and those things are a part of the work, but our lives are so much bigger than the work, and our reason for being here is so much bigger, and that's the stuff we're doing outside of work. That's the stuff I wanna see on my highlight reel. Like, I wanna see all of those moments. I don't wanna see all the ballroom galas I ever went to.
If you'd like to engage in this conversation with the For the Love of Humanity podcast community, you can leave a message by texting or calling 1-612-440-4819. That's 1-612-440-4819. Keep your message as concise as you can, especially if you'd like it shared on the air. And be sure to indicate in your message whether you're cool with us airing it publicly with your first name. Otherwise, we can air it anonymously too. And remember, you can either call and leave a voice message or you can text. Either one works. And let us know your preference about sharing, whether with your name or anonymously. I really hope to engage in conversation with you this way, so please do call or text. That's 1-612-440-4819. Okay, and now I'm going to pull the pin out of the discussion about
Mm,
being human
mhm.
versus being a machine, because this is something that we have talked about. And I think that we've had such interesting conversations about it. But like now, we've had a number of points in this conversation already where we've talked about being human at work, being human as a fundraiser, what that might look like, what that might mean. And I think AI has just burst onto the scene. You go onto LinkedIn, you go onto any other social media, everybody's talking about it.
Yeah.
Everybody's wondering about it. A lot of people are feeling anxiety about how do I use it? What's the best way? A lot of people are questioning the ethics of it. Like, how do I use it ethically? There's just so much going on about AI. There's so many conversations about it. And there's so much grappling with it. Like it, I think about it. This is another character in our story, Mel, kind of like the spreadsheet. The spreadsheet was like another character. AI
The
is
spreadsheet won't, so this could run. Yes.
it's it's doing that. It's becoming this thing
Yeah.
that we all are having to figure out how to have a relationship with. We're trying to figure out what that relationship is going to be and what it's going to look like. So I guess I'm curious, like we've talked a little bit about the differences between being a, a machine versus a human. I'm curious, what have you seen in the workplace, places where you wish people would not be relying on something like AI or a machine, or ways
Mhm.
that you feel like humans really should be running the show? Humans and our shared humanity should be what it's really about.
I feel like we're losing our creativity, right? And that creativity is like the essence of being human, I feel like. And like we're just handing it off so that AI can do it for us. And I think that's just such a long-term mistake that we're not even thinking about because we need all of our creativity to get where we're trying to go, right? Like we need all of us to see the same thing in different ways and talk about it in different ways so that everybody can hear it and find their place in it.
Mm.
And we aren't going to get there if we're all saying the same thing that ChatGPT said. And do we really even want our lives run by what ChatGPT thought?
I
That's
know.
so insidious. Like it's just it happens so quickly and we don't even really notice it. And I guess applying that to a work setting, I would hope that if you're going to use AI, please don't start with AI. Start
Mhm.
with your own draft, your own ideas, even tell it, here's what I have already. But start from you, start from within yourself and from your own experience, your own expertise. because that is so much richer and more valuable than what this technology is gonna tell you. And then you might even find that you don't even need the technology.
Mhm.
Like, so yeah, I don't want us to lose our creativity to AI.
I know, and I think there's really something to what you said about the fact that creativity really is what makes us most human, and letting that creative force, that creative I think people who are creative, most of them will talk about feeling something move through them. Uh,
Yeah.
I think most people who are creative would say that there's like a soul process of feeling an energy or something, and it comes through you and then it expresses through you in a way that only a human can do. Only a human can tune into that thing. And whether it's playing it a certain way or writing it a certain way or singing it a certain way or whatever. And I don't think the robots are ever going to be able to do that. They're not equipped to do that. They're equipped to take whatever the humans have already done that with and then just regurgitate it. Uh, at least as far as the robots are created right now. Who knows what will happen in the future. But the ones that are created right now, that's what they're doing. And so to your point about the repetition, I've been hearing just bits and pieces. Again, we're all hearing everybody talking about AI, but I've been hearing, for instance, admissions officers in colleges say that they keep seeing the same essays coming through for college
Yeah.
admission, or teachers are saying the same thing, or I've heard recruiters say that the cover letters are all starting to look like curiously
Yep.
the same thing.
Yep.
And it's to your point, what is lost
Exactly. Yes.
when we just outsource that
Yes.
aspect of being human, of
Yes.
expressing ourselves, of letting spirit move through us or letting that creative force move through us, and then
Mhm.
and expressing it in the way that only a human can express. What is
Yeah.
lost if we all stop doing that?
Yeah, I feel like there's something lost, like, for the culture and society, but, like, even, like, for yourself, like, I might be stretching here, but I think for a lot of people, the college admission essay is the first time you really reflect on your life up until that point and pull out a theme and explore a part of yourself in that essay. And if you aren't doing that, like, I do think you miss out on something. I think you lose something, and it's at a point in time where that's developmentally when you're supposed to be exploring different parts of yourself and growing and, like, looking more inward, and what happens to you developmentally when you don't do that? I can make any conversation about Beyoncé, so we should just start there. But thinking about Cowboy Carter, album of my lifetime, how that is to me the encapsulation of what being human is supposed to be.
Oh my goodness.
Like,
She is
the
a creative force.
exactly, and no part of that could have been created
Oh,
from
wow.
A and look at the cultural impact of Cowboy Carter, of just one album and its impact, just it's wild to me, and that's what we lose. I think Spotify even released data on how many people it was like millions of people who had their first time listening to country music on Spotify was Cowboy Carter.
Wow.
Yeah, they, like, made a billboard about it, I'm forgetting, it was a wildly high number, and I'm like, "That's what it's about." It's like, you got to explore something new and say, "Oh, maybe this isn't what I thought it was, or maybe there's a place for me in this." And that all came from somebody getting that message, getting that inspiration, letting it flow through them, and creating something with it, getting a message out. We would have lost so much if we didn't have that, and we've gotta protect it, I feel like. We've gotta protect creativity in society because, like, stuff gets bleak without it.
Oh my gosh, it really does, and I think about I love dwelling in Beyoncé for a bit, because I'm just even as we were talking about it, I'm like, AI could never like, even given the fact that for a lot of her career, she's been an R&B artist. If AI was creating for Beyoncé, it was like, "Oh, you sing R&B," but no, instead, she
Mm,
is human with multiple dimensions to her self and to her being. She knows the history of country and how Black it is. She knows
Yeah.
that most people don't know that. She knows that's a part of music that she has never done before, that she's not explored before. She is a creative person and an adventuresome person, and so she wants to try it, and she does. She does it. And she just yeah, it's like the amazing stuff that comes through her, and it's also a kind of country music that has never come through anybody else either. It's
Yeah.
not just the AI version of country, it's like a whole different version
It's
of country.
innovation. Yeah. AI isn't really creating something new. It's like repackaging existing information. Like it doesn't just spawn. It is fed all of the data that we give it. And so it would just keep perpetuating the same stuff. We wouldn't get anything new. We wouldn't get the innovation of Cowboy Carter if we were relying on AI to tell us what her next album should be, to
Absolutely
write those
not.
songs or to give her like the beat for it. And I just think that's so powerful that innovation we think of AI as so innovative, but I think it actually could be like the nail in the coffin for innovation in the end, and we're looking to it before we look to ourselves.
I know. Well, and to bring it back to fundraising, there is I sometimes have said, there is almost no other profession or thing you could be doing for work that is more human than fundraising. Because it really is all about human to human connection, humans being in solidarity with each other, just like humans caring about each other. Literally, philanthropy means love of humanity. So humans caring for each other. And I just get a little concerned if AI, frankly, is in the picture at all, but is in the too much. Maybe there's some sort of repetitive stuff that AI could take care of that it's like maybe the human isn't really being human in that moment, like, they're just repeating the same thing again, and it's not very nourishing or whatever. Okay, maybe then. But, like, when it comes to actually creating something or connecting with another person or just really expressing why this mission is so important and understanding why this mission is so important, I just don't think a robot's gonna be able to do that, and I don't think a robot should do that.
I totally agree. I don't think we are the people in danger of losing our jobs to the robots. I think they can or should do what we do. And I think that's important for us to remember that this job isn't just about raising money. It's not just getting checks in the door. Like it's actually building relationships with each other and bringing people closer to the work and deepening their commitment to the work and seeing themselves as part of the community. Like it's not these other people need help. It's you also benefit from this. And like a robot is not going to help you see that in the way that a human is, that we all benefit from this.
Oh my gosh, yes. And this is like perfectly leading into my next question, which is I think community centric fundraising is something that officially launched as a thing that people are talking about and that has like a website and all of that in 2020. But of course, I will say it existed long before that in many different communities. Boulay was talking about it well before then. Just a lot of people, primarily communities of color, were very well versed in it before 2020. But it's been a thing since 2020. There's been a lot of talk about it. A lot of people have their own ideas about it. But you, Mallory, are really, it's become such an important part of your work, your career, in the sense that, like, you even founded the Minnesota chapter of community centric fundraising. And in your coaching and consulting and speaking now, you're really speaking from a perspective of community centric fundraising. And I know that a lot of people have their own idea of what does it mean. I feel like I hear a lot of negative stuff about it, honestly, and some positive stuff. And so all of that considered, I just would like to hear in your own words, what is community centric fundraising? How do you think about it? How do you talk about it? How do you define community centric fundraising?
Yeah. Oh, that's actually such a big question that I've really tried to simplify my answer to. And I think of it as maybe I should start with how I think of donor centered fundraising and then how that leads into community centric fundraising. But I think of donor centered fundraising as like a circle that only has room for donors in it because their wants, their needs, their preferences are the center of our universe. And those wants, needs, and preferences of everybody else who powers the work is left out because there's only so much room in the center. So, community, staff, people you serve, all of these are outside of the circle. And I think of community centric fundraising as we're just making that circle bigger. So, we're going to try to center everyone who makes the work possible, not just one group of people who make the work possible. And it's not to say that everything has to be for everyone because then effectively it's for no one, but I think it's more so about everybody's wants and needs and preferences are equally important. And just because you have more money, more wealth, more whatever, doesn't mean that you are entitled to yours carrying more weight than other people's. Does that make sense?
That does make sense, and it reminds me of Voulet's thing where he talks about the difference between the donors standing on the side of the pond and looking out at the ducks, and they
More
oh,
about that.
oh, how would he say it? I hope I don't misquote you. If you're listening to this, boo, I'm sorry if I'm misquoting. He basically says, say the ducks are hungry, and so the donors are standing on the side of the pond and saying, "Oh, those poor ducks. You know, those ducks are hungry, they need food." And so they go and get some bread or whatever they get and throw it out to the ducks so the ducks can eat. And the way he would say it, that is, but that's not it. You're a duck. You know? Okay. We're all ducks.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like in the typical Voulet way, he just makes things funny and also about baby animals or other animals. It's we're all human. So it's like you're
Mhm.
saying, it's like, why would that human be more important than this other human? We all have dignity. We all have value. We all inherently by being human. So like, why are these other people being weighed more? It's like acknowledging how much we all really are in solidarity on the same plane with each other and in a collective kind of purpose with each other and knowing that everything we do affects us and affects others and affects us. Like it's
Mhm.
all connected, right? Because we are in community.
Yeah, yeah, and we're all humans in this. I think the like in fundraising, it's really typical. The people with the most money get the most of our energy and the most of our attention.
Yeah.
And I think all of this together says something about the way we view money. Because if we're all humans, it's just the people who have more of this specific resource are the people who get more of our energy and more of our attention. So
Oh,
what is it about that resource that we are putting so much value on that's dictating the rest of us? And so I think that's like the other part of the CCF that we don't talk about a lot, but I think actually CCF is part of it is redefining your relationship to money and seeing that it is not an indicator of character, of intelligence, of any of these things. Like it's literally one of many resources it takes to do the work. And nobody should get extra anything because they have more of any one resource than anyone else.
amen. Yes. And right, like it's amazing how this one resource has taken over sort of everything. And this is actually one of the topics that you and I have had more than one very juicy conversation about. I believe you even have a keynote out there that you've been giving about money and our relationship to money. Side note to the listener, if you want Mallory to come talk to you about your relationship to money, she's
Happy
already
to.
yeah, she's got a keynote. But I'm just curious how you think our personal relationship with money affects our work as fundraisers. I would just love the podcast listeners to be able to have some sense of how you think about this, how we've been talking about this. because I think it's such a powerful reflection for fundraisers to really help us do our work more effectively and meaningfully, since money is such an important part of what we do. That kind of reminds me of you were saying, why do we focus on that one resource? I guess in fundraising, we're told to, right? That's what we're told our job is. But I think there's a degree to which, boy, we need to maybe back off that a little bit. So I just talk to the people a little bit about why do you think our personal relationship with money is even important? And how do you think it affects our fundraising?
I think the way we feel about money is gonna show up in the way we feel about asking for it, and that seems like the simplest explanation to me. I've worked with people who view money as it's super scarce. When I have it, I have to cling to it. I don't know when I'm gonna get it again. I have to make it last as long as it can, and I only feel safe when I have money. And so if that's the way you're viewing money, asking someone for it, it's gonna feel really hard because it feels like you're asking them for a piece of their security. You're asking them for something that they don't wanna let go of. And it's a way that I think we hold ourselves back in reaching our full fundraising potential, but we don't even realize it because we don't talk about money enough.
Mm,
So if
mhm.
you're not comfortable even thinking or talking about money just in general, you're not going to be comfortable doing that with anyone, let alone somebody who has more of it than you do. It's just not going to feel good. So I really like to work with people on identifying your relationship to money and just naming that you have one. It doesn't have to be a positive one, it doesn't have to be a negative one, but we all have one. And I think just naming that and acknowledging for yourself that it's there can do a lot for you. That keynote you mentioned earlier, money as a tool for change, when I did that in May, a woman came up to me after and she was like, "Thank you so much for that. Like, you've helped me see that I left an abusive partner like 13 years ago
Oh,
and I had no money. I was living out of my car.
wow.
I've built my life back up and like I'm in a good place now, but now I can see that I will avoid asking people for money because it feels like I'm asking them for all that they have." And I was like, that is so powerful. And it's something that like you would not have figured out for yourself just through your everyday work at your desk. But it's such a big part of fundraising. She was like, I find myself coming up with excuses to not go to donor meetings. Oh, I really need to work on this. And let's focus on grants, like anything but talk to another human. And I think her just even acknowledging that that was a thing for her took some weight off of her shoulders. That there's not something wrong with me. It's not like there's this magical skill set I don't possess. It's just this emotional blockage that I have. And if I can work my way through that, then I can work through these feelings that I have about asking people for money. But that's, I think of it as like clouds blocking your sun. Like that relationship to money is blocking the sun. And we need to get that out of the way so you can get all of the sunlight, all of the money, all of the energy and resources that you could possibly want.
Oh my gosh. Yes. And even that story drives home for me what we were talking about before with fundraising being kind of one of the most human things. Because if you're really doing fundraising, if you're not just like hiding at your desk writing grants or
Yeah.
letters or doing everything else you can think of besides actually talking to people about your mission and asking them for money and things, like, if you're gonna do that, if you're gonna step out from behind your desk, if you're gonna go out, you're gonna talk to people, you're gonna have these conversations, they are gonna be real. They're gonna be real
Yes.
conversations. You're gonna often be confronted with your own emotions, your own stuff, like, you're gonna be encountering some of theirs. This is also why I say that fundraisers are so often at the nexus of all the most gnarly dynamics in our society. There's the fundraisers who have experienced sexual assault. You're experiencing these power relationships between, as we've said, like funders, donors who have a lot of money and a lot of power. And then maybe it's a young female fundraiser and she's having to like interface with them. There you go. there's suddenly, boom, there's that nexus of those dynamics in our society coming together in one conversation, or could be race dynamics, it could be class dynamics, it could be all the dynamics. And you just illustrated there how it's so real. Like when you're having these experiences, these kinds of things that you have within you, these emotions, these experiences, these maybe traumas, they can come up. I'm curious, what are some of the ways that you recommend to people to start to heal their relationship with money?
Yeah. I go through it step by step in the curriculum, but I think the most important part is, and this is me repeating myself, but again, I think just naming for yourself that you have one. And you don't have to dig into like your deepest, most traumatic money memories. I did a session where the prompts were variations of what was something that you saved up for when you were a kid and you're really excited about what that item was. Did you even have one? No, and what did it feel like to get it? And how does that show up in your present day life as an adult now? Do you have the collection of Legos because you couldn't have it when you were a kid and now you're like, yeah, I got it. There's just there's so much wrapped up in there, and I think it's so easy to project our feelings about money onto donors and assume that they feel the same way that we do. And so I don't know if I'm exactly answering the question, but I think that's the kind of number one umbrella recommendation I think for reframing money for yourself is just acknowledging that you have a relationship to money, because I think even just giving voice to it is gonna take some weight off of your shoulders, and then I think it'll come more naturally to you what to do next about that, because 'cause you're like, "Okay, I can see the parts of me that need to heal or the parts of me that need to see this presented in a different way." Just that paradigm shift, I think, can do a lot for people.
It's really in my work, I often talk a lot about like subterranean versus terranean dynamics, where for those of us that have done cultural work, we often have seen the image of an iceberg and how so much of culture is
Right.
below the surface. So
Mhm.
for me, like it seems like bringing that subterranean dynamic up to consciousness, up to the light, up to the surface. And so just
Right.
that process of taking something that is hidden, buried, bringing it to consciousness, bringing it up to the surface, just that
Mhm.
alone can be super powerful and shift some of the power to that thing had in
Yeah,
the situations.
exactly. Yes, yes.
Okay, so this is the last official question I have for you, Mallory. I would like you to just do a little dreaming. So this is that creative process we were talking about earlier. It's like you're opening up and letting the world express through you, letting the life force or the creative force express through you. If you could dream, if you can imagine a world where all community work is supported by community-centric fundraising, and
Mm.
just help the listeners see it too. What is that world like?
Oh, that's such a good question. I think it's a lot of moving not just money, but resources between each other and like showing up for each other. I think we saw that with mutual aid, right? Has really become more commonplace the past couple of years. I think that is a great example of what do you need that I might have extra of or excess of, and we can redistribute it. I think it's really that redistribution. Um,
Yes.
I've even started thinking about fundraising as not just like raising money to fuel the work in our communities, but we're actually returning wealth to communities that were exploited to generate it. And that is so much more powerful to me. And I think that's what a world with community centric fundraising as the norm would feel like. Like, I think it's like leveling things out and showing up for each other in all of the ways. I think we see this in communities already. Like growing up, there was a woman down the street from us who would watch everybody's kids. And like that to me is part of what a CCF world would look like. That's I'm offering my time, my affection, my everything, right? To all of these little ones. And like, it's not about capitalism. It's not about how much money can I make from this. It's these kids need a place to go that's safe where they're going to be loved. These parents need to know there's a place for that kid to go. And I'm going to be that place. Like, I just think there's so much in showing up for each other and actually connecting. I think we will be out of the ballrooms. I think the galas will be done. I think we'll be in the street. I think we'll be doing block parties. We'll be in the backyard cooking. Right? Isn't that a much more exciting version of fundraising? Let's get the paperwork out of the way. Let's get all of the systems and bureaucracy and all of that and like just be in community with each other. And communities hold each other accountable. We don't need all of the paperwork and systems to do that. When we're in community with each other, that's part of it. So yeah, that's in my dream world, that is what community centric fundraising and just community work would look like is yeah, block parties, backyard hangouts. We're moving money where it's needed. We're redistributing it to communities. Everyone's basic needs are met plus some. Yeah,
I wanna live in that world. Can we go there, like,
me
now?
too. Yes. Packing our bags.
Honestly, Mel, I love the picture. I love the picture you painted because I can feel it. I can see it. I can feel it. I do wanna live there, and I hope that others listening feel it and see it too, and I hope that they also realize how much more joyful and meaningful and rich life would be if that is how we lived together.
Exactly. Yeah. And I like to think that we're on the cusp, like we're on the precipice of this. I don't think we're that far from it, but I think it is going to take a commitment from all of us as fundraisers and from donors to all move in that same direction, to all hold that as a priority and to let go of the give by this date for tax deductibility. I don't even think that's in our dream world, right? Like it's just give because there's a need that needs to be met. And we're all giving what we have and what we can. So I like to think we're closer to it than we think. We just have to stay the course.
Amen. Amen, sister friend. Okay, we are at time. I know, right? I
Oh
know.
my God.
I don't want it to be time.
I know. It's like, when's the sequel? When's part two?
there's gotta be a sequel for sure. I have a feeling that once this goes out into the universe on the airwaves, we're gonna start getting people saying, "Bring her back." But what the last little thing I wanted to ask you here was, do you have any offerings coming up or anything that you want the people to know about? Any ways that people can engage with you in the future?
Yeah, you can follow me on LinkedIn. That's probably where I'm the most active these days for some regular insights. We're also offering our signature course, Individual Giving 101. That's coming up. It's a great three-part course. It's really good for organizations who are trying to build an individual giving program and find individual donors, or they've got a handful, but they need more. It's a great course for that. So that's another way people can plug in. Early bird registration for that opens on Monday, August 11th. The course will begin in September. So that could be a really good option for people who are looking to build their individual giving program, trying to figure out who their potential donors even are. We've had a lot of success with that, and it's just really fun. It's one of the highlights for me of being in business.
Great. I hope you are able to have a really dynamic cohort again, like I know you have a number of times already. I'm so glad that you joined us today, Mel. I hope people do follow you on LinkedIn. I hope they go to the Aligned Strategy Group website. I will include the links for all of that in the show notes so you can easily find them. But you can see it, folks. She has a lot of wisdom, and she's somebody that is definitely worth staying connected to and listening to. So thank you, Mal, for coming and sharing all of your wisdom and light here on the inaugural interview of the For the Love of Humanity podcast.
Right, I'm so proud of us, so proud of you. I am so happy to be here and be a part of this. And yeah, I think this is going to be great. I'm excited to be attached to it.
Oh, thank you, Mel. Thanks for joining us today. Hopefully, you're left with some inspiration, some things to ponder, some topics that will spur further conversation between you and your friends and colleagues. If you'd like to engage in this conversation with the For the Love of Humanity podcast community, you can leave a message by texting or calling 1-612-440-4819. That's 1-612-440-4819. Be sure to indicate whether you're cool with your thoughts being shared on the air. Then, want to help us spread the word? Don't forget to follow and rate and review the pod wherever you get your podcasts. That'll help more people find us and help our community grow. Finally, visit the online community at fortheloveofhumanity.community and be sure to subscribe when you're there. Bye for now, friends.